Well, to start off, how long has it been since you've been back to Philly?
I come here every year.
Mm-hmm.
I played World Cafe last year. Typically, I play that venue around the time of release of an album,
Mm-hmm.
and so about this time last year, I played the World Cafe, and that's a great venue. And Tin Angel's my little stomping grounds here, so I love it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I started doing open mics here, like the featured artist for the open mic night in about I think '93 or '94,
Mm-hmm.
and then so this was my venue in Philly for a long time, and until I could draw more people, basically, and I still like to come back and play here because it's such a cool little folk club, it's
And how long has it been since you've been back to the Tin Angels? You say you were the World Cafe, but
yeah, gosh, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years at least since I've been here.
have you noticed any changes like in the venue itself?
No,
or
it's the exact same.
does it like feel so? It feels pretty cool to just come back and
Yeah.
give it
Yeah, like when I was on stage earlier, I was like, gosh, it's so boomy up here, and Kip goes, yeah, it's because there's a subwoofer right beneath your feet, and I thought, of course there is. I totally remember that now, but it's one of those things that you forget,
Mhm.
But,
And then, so your newest album came out last year, correct? Honeydew, was it?
yeah, my latest project's a live album,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been out a few months, and a live DVD concert film that goes with it.
So we're up to what, 10, 12 CDs now, is it?
Let's see, Better Days, Big Blue Sky, Eggshells, Soul's Core. If you count greatest hit stuff, I don't really, so I won't count that. Let's see, after that was Beneath the Velvet Sun, then The Thorns, then, yeah, nine studio albums and about 14 total,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So.
And it's like out of like all the albums, like as you look back on them, is there like one that like really sticks out to you that like you just really felt like came out the best, or is it kind of like everything you do like you almost view as the best thing you've done like as you progress through your career?
Well, you hope. I mean, that's what you hope for.
Mhm.
You hope that that it keeps getting better. I mean, Soul's Core is obviously the record that sold the most,
Uh-huh.
and also that was a time in my life that I felt like I was just kind of all of a sudden tapping into what I wanted to tap into writing wise.
Mhm.
So Soul's Core was one of those records, and then I think my last two, it felt like that too, where I'm kind of reaching another plateau with the writing and the engineering and recording and getting the right people in the room when you're recording. That's so much a part of production, is getting the right people there, and
Yeah.
so you don't mess around with whether or not it's going to work or not. You just know it's going to work.
And well, I think something that's just really admirable about you, that thing, is that I think it was I don't, correct me if I quote you wrong, but it was from an interview you did before where you said when you started out your career, it was like the normal, like you want to get that big deal, you want to like just like make it big and play all the big shows and stuff, but then you realize that like you can just make a life out of it and like have a career and like make enough and like not have to have that huge record deal, and like do you feel
Well,
like
yeah, what really happened was when I first started out, like I was about 19, and it was back when cassettes were still around. So my first two things were only on cassette.
Mhm.
And CDs, most people didn't have CDs out that were independent at that time, late 80s we're talking about.
Mhm.
And at that time, there was a guy that had worked for a record company that owned his own consulting firm, and he saw me play in Atlanta, where I'm from, and wanted to help me get a deal. So for a couple of years, he tried to shop me and get me a record deal, and that was, it was in the middle of the grunge movement. I mean, the last thing they wanted was a folk singer, their major
Yeah.
labels. And so really after that, after he and I kind of parted ways, I really didn't think about getting a record deal.
Mhm.
And I just kind of decided that, people like Ani DeFranco and a lot of the punk bands and a lot of the hip-hop guys in Atlanta were influential on me because they were doing it on their own. I mean, there was lots going on that was independent, that was really good.
Mhm.
So that was my focus from 93 until 98, was having my own record company, getting out there and touring, and making a living. That was the goal.
Mhm.
And really, I never really saw myself playing stadiums and being a rock star ever.
Mhm.
Like maybe when I was 10 years old or something.
Mhm.
But when I started playing out, I knew kind of where I belonged, which was a small venue that was intimate, where I could really connect with the audience. And because there's a handful of people over the history of the world that can play stadiums solo.
Yeah.
John Denver was one of those people. Like he could play a 100,000 seat venue and just bring the house down with just him and a guitar. And Paul Simon, you know, James Taylor. There's a few people that can do that, and most of us aren't comfortable with doing that. You know, if you're an acoustic artist, you kind of want to be in a smaller environment. It just feels better to you, you know, and it sounds better too. Stadiums sound terrible, so and I'm very sensitive to the way the show sounds. So for me, the goal was never to really be a rock star. So when all that stuff happened in '98 and '99. And into 2000, that was a very weird thing for me. I was kind of taken back by it, and frankly, I was uncomfortable with the fame. I didn't like it at all, and I look back on it and I can enjoy it kind of from a distance from the past. But as I was going through it, it was really uncomfortable because I'd spent 10 years playing places like the Tin Angel, and all of a sudden I was sharing the stage with Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys and doing all these massive things. So that was weird for me, and it's good to kind of work my way back to where I wanted to be, you know.
And you mentioned influences back from Atlanta and everything. Who would you say, like, through your career has, like, influenced you, like, music-wise? Like, even as a child, like, who, like, just kind of formed who you were, like, in your songwriting?
Well, I have different influences. I have songwriting influences. People like Chris Christopherson, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, James McMurtry, a lot of Texas songwriters. And then the music, the vocal influences and the kind of rhythm guitar influences are different than that. There are people like Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and Neil Young, Michael Franti from Spearhead, Anita Franco, Indigo Girls. These are, and I grew up around the Indigo Girls. I mean, I met Amy when I was in the 9th grade, so we knew each other for many years, and they actually helped me get my start. Opening for them and all that. So there have been musical influences that are separate from the writing, really. Sometimes they don't overlap. They're kind of two different things for me.
Yeah. Through listening all of your albums, I see that, like, there's always at least probably one cover per album. And would you say, like, even, like, during your live performances that may not be on your albums, like, is there, like, a specific artist or song that you just love to cover?
I do cover Christopherson, not every night. But every now and again, I'll do Sunday Morning Coming Down or To Beat the Devil, one of those. And I do the traditional song House of the Rising Sun. A lot of people think that's an animal song, but it's actually a traditional piece that was written in the late 1800s. That's how old that song is, and that was on my last album. So yeah, I do that one most shows. But yeah, it's usually one or two at the very most that I'll do, and sometimes I'll do a James McMurtry song. But typically, since I'm a songwriter, you know, I'm kind of, that's what I do, you know.
Are we gonna get any covers tonight?
Yeah, I think I just wrote my set list. I'm pretty sure Where's Johnny by James McMurtry's on that, and House of the Rising Sun. So, so yeah.
I saw that you had played at the inaugural celebration this year. How was that for you?
It was fun. It was a blast.
Was that was that during the day or like one of the balls at night, or?
It was in the afternoon. It was at the Palm Restaurant in D.C. And it was a party for the Clintons and a fundraiser for Terry McCullough, and it, you know, it wasn't really a feel good gig. It wasn't a room where people are listening really.
So it was more like a background music.
Exactly. It was like a cocktail hour, and people were wheeling and dealing and exchanging, you know, phone numbers and checks and everything else. So, but it was an honor to be a part of that whole thing, and to, you know, to be a very small part of that wonderful change in our country. You know, that was really cool. Yeah.
Do you try and stay like politically involved? Like, I know you've done other fundraisers and stuff. I think you did one for John Kerry, correct?
Yeah, I did. I did one for John Kerry. I did one for Al Gore. I played on the Capitol steps in Atlanta for President Obama. It was the night before the election, actually, and I did some stuff there. It was a big rally. I'm not really a political musician. You know, I don't really. That stuff doesn't come into my songs all the time. Yeah. Now and again, it does, but it's not really. I don't have a problem with people doing that. I think it's a great platform. You know, if that's what you want to do. Because I'm a storyteller, sometimes through the stories, not a political agenda, but maybe a political idea or someone's values might come through the song, through the character. Not so much what I maybe believe in, but, you know.
As like a storyteller in your songs, would you say that like most of your songs come from personal experience, or just from like actual like other people's stories, almost like just a storybook kind of like going along?
Both, really, because not only, I mean, obviously, always your own thing gets woven into the songs, but I pay attention a lot. I'm kind of always been like a fly on the wall, and which again brings me back to when I got famous. It was really hard to be that.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to observe because I was being observed so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt really good to kind of move back to where it's not such a part of the pop scene, and I was able to observe again and create, and I think any artist needs to do that. You know, they need to be able to observe life and the human condition in order to write or paint or whatever they do.
Mm-hmm. For like the artist just trying to start out, like how you said you started at 18 or 19 and just on cassettes and everything, like what would be like the best advice you feel like you'd give them, like if they were just trying to push out and just get going?
Well, for songwriters, people that want to write songs, I always say that the most important thing is to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Not literally in the sense that you may make up a story, or you know, that's not what I mean, but the essence of what the message is that you're trying to get across, if there is one, that you have to be truthful, and that's why people will connect with it. If it tells the truth and it comes from the right place, you know, it'll connect. So that, and also just to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many people see what's happening and what's hip, and they go, okay, that maybe is what I should do, and they kind of try that, and then next week something else is hip.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, I learned long ago to be myself, and I was told that by people that I respected.
Mm-hmm.
To be yourself. If yourself is present and everyone can see that, you'll succeed. I believe that.
One last thing I'd say is this actually, aside from being my assistant today, Erin's also my girlfriend of 3.5 years, and the reason that we had met, and the main reason we started talking was over your song Lullaby.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't even like it was in like the time range like when it actually first came out, but like
Right.
just like something like that like we just started talking because about like your song came up somehow and we started a conversation about it, and 4 years later here we are still together. And it's like what does that make you feel that like just music itself that you make can have like that kind of impact?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great to know that in any smidget of a way that I could have, you know, connected with people that way, and it always feels great. That's why I do it. You know, I mean, getting it out is half of it, and the other half is the connection that you make with people, and so that always feels good to know that the music gets out there and people are moved by it in some way, and it can bring people together. I mean, it's wonderful.